together, for inviting me to come along. My name is Gary Studley. As I said, I run Writing for Life, Sound Lines and Dead Horse Arts. If you want to look me up, feel free. Obviously, seek advice before you contact me on the internet. Okay, so this is a quick recap. To get good health, we need fresh air, exercise, and sleep. Sleep is the big one there. Obviously, it rejuvenates our body. Also, exercise is very good for oxygen, relaxation, mindfulness, if you buy into it properly and pay attention to every single thing you do. And also, fresh air is very good for anti-SAD, for vitamin D, for oxygen, digestion, sleep. And at the moment, the terrible thing that we're struggling with is being stuck in the house. So what can we do about being stuck in the house? What can we do about lockdown? What can we do about mental health situations we might find ourselves in? Okay, imagine this in an American accent. Struggling to recall all you have to do, feeling overwhelmed by too much. Yeah, see, that's enough of that. It sounds like a Hoover advert. But basically, this is a little exercise you can do. It's called Brainwash. Okay, ever been wandering around your house and suddenly something ticks into the back of your mind? You know you're supposed to remember it. Ever been going around your house and something feels like you really need to write it down, or something feels a bit too much? Pound shops, Poundland, that sort of place do these fantastic blank postcards. Get yourself a stack of blank postcards, put them in your pocket. When you're feeling anxiety or stress coming over you, or when you're feeling there's things that you're supposed to remember, whip them out. As you can see, there's not many details on there. Put down a few basic bones of what you're struggling with, and then string them up on a line. Treat them like the washing. Put them out to air. If you walk past them enough times, they'll lose their importance. If you've fed up of looking at them, you can put them away. The most important thing is the act of writing them gives you a degree of control over them. So instead of them spiraling around your head, you're in charge. Okay. Stepping on from there, I'm sorry for rushing, but there's an awful lot to get through today. Stepping on from there, there's mind mapping. Mind mapping is a great way to find yourself, to find your place, and to find your goals in life. This mind map that I've drawn here is just a pure categorization one. How do I see myself? What groups do I fit into? Now, the X's, you don't have to do. The crosses, that was me doing a comparison with a peer. The irony of finding out a lot about yourself is you do find out that you're sometimes not very different to everybody else. So although my peer on my counselling course had all these things that they didn't have similar, we still connect, we still talk, we still like some of the same things, and we can still get on. That's the most important thing. So this helps me find out about myself, but also I can get on. When you're using a mind map and when you're mind mapping, there's some things to bear in mind. You can get really stressed about it and how difficult it is, or you can use SMART goals. Now, these things are findable on the internet. You would have done them already in school, but basically I'm going to show you a way where you can sort out your life a little bit and take down some of your stress and some of your anxiety by using mind map. Okay, so if you want to do screenshots of these at any time, just pause away and you can do them. So step 1, in the middle of the page goes I am. Step 2, around it, you label all the things you're very positive, your health, your fitness, where you live, that sort of thing. Step 3, the things you would like to change. So in my case, I could put get thinner. I've been putting that for years. But I do get a lot of headaches because of Zoom. I do a lot of work on Zoom. And I also, as I'm a self-employed teacher, I need more students for my creative writing courses. So what this does is it stresses to you immediately what your goals are. It tells you the good things in your life. It tells you the things in your life you'd like to change. And then it gets you to focus down on 2 aspects that you would like to change. By using SMART goals, SMART targets, you can see that you can break it down into how you can get those. So my target for my students is to get more students by X. To get more students in term 1 and term 2, use publicity, reviews and trials to do it. This is essential for paying the bills, and this is to be done within the next 4 months, because I do realise that change doesn't happen with all the instantaneously. With all these things you're going to see today, it's not about making massive, enormous changes. It's about making one change and then another change, feeling positive about it, making another change, making another change. It's also a way of controlling a lot of the pressure that you feel under sometimes. Okay, stepping on from mind mapping, and again, you can find all this material online. This is Judy Cameron's Morning Pages. Now, Morning Pages is actually very simple. So although we've got a full page of A4 text here, it's a very, very simple thing to do. Sometimes when you wake up, you haven't slept well. Sometimes when you wake up, you haven't put yesterday's problems to bed. Sometimes when you wake up, you've got all those problems running in your head. With 3 morning pages, what happens is you set your alarm for half an hour earlier, you wake up, you reach for a pen, you reach for a paper, and for 30 to 40 minutes you write. Now, the original version of this was that you wrote 3 A4 sheets of writing, but now you can do it for smaller if you want to, if it's too much. Initially, this is going to feel a bit weird because you haven't been told what to write about. But what you write about is what's in your head. So you're writing a stream of consciousness straight out, not worrying about structure, not worrying about punctuation, not worrying about grammar. And what this does is it gets those issues that have been spiraling around your head, and rather than letting you drag them around them all day with you, it puts them down on the paper. Now, no one needs to see these morning pages. No one needs to read them. You don't even need to read them back. Most people don't read them back. But what happens is after a number of weeks and a couple of months, you've done it so often that you realize you've taken some of the anxiety out of your day. In my case, I've built this up over a number of years because I use this with clients and I've used this myself, to where you can actually use the morning pages as sort of a helpful diagnostic tool. So I wouldn't recommend you do this straight away. I'd recommend that you do this in a couple of months if that's the way you feel. So one of the first things you need to do is ground yourself after you've done your 3-page writing. You need to slow down your breathing. You need to make sure you're sitting right, and then get a different color pen to the one you're using. Okay, so you've written your 3 pages. Put against things that you think are absolutely a must, things that you must do, things that stress you, things that worry you, that if you don't do these things, there's a serious consequence. Put an M next door to them. Next door to the things you think need to be done in a day, put an N next door to them. Those things that you have to do in a day-to-day, and they can be quite stressful if you get them wrong. And then against things that you would like to get done, maybe things that would make your life better, maybe things that would make your life easier or happier, put an L. So that's M for the things that mean you must do, N for the things you need to do, and L for the things you'd like to do. Then you just put the pen down and you put your morning pages away, and you go out around your day, have a nice breakfast, enjoy your day, try and get on with your work. Later on, you come back to it and you look at your morning pages and you look at the things that you told yourself you must do, and you told yourself you need to do, and you told yourself that you'd like to do. And over a period of time, you realize that although initially it might feel like you haven't actually got anything done because there's a lot of those things you thought were very, very important, you haven't managed to do. In reality, it also means that you can get by, you can cope, you can have a good life without stressing about things that you might never even need to get around to doing. So it's a way of just showing you that although you feel you've got an awful lot of pressures on, you can survive life without meeting them all head on and without stressing about them. Okay, so now we're stepping a little bit more into the art, and this is blackout. Now it's called blackout poetry, but it doesn't have to be blackout poetry. But blackout and find out is a way of dealing with some of the pressures that you have, some of the anger that you might have, and some of the depression that you might have. Sometimes when you are feeling a bit down, you just want to obliterate something or hide. Blackout is a way of doing that using just 2 simple things, which we have here. We have a marker pen and a pair of scissors. You'll also need a book, a newspaper, or an old magazine. Okay, what you do is you take out 1 page. You look at that page. If a word pops out at you, if a word floats out as being important, you draw a circle around it. And by the way, this is always good to do with biscuits and chocolate and coffee. Okay, so gradually you work your way through the page, covering all the words that you don't need. And what tends to happen is your brain forgets what you were worried about before, and it funnels down into creating something. Initially, it funnels down into covering everything up. It might funnel down into looking for patterns, and then it tends to funnel down into actually making a story. In this case, or a poem. In this case, it's a key phrase. The key is to have the good news in you. Now, all those words were on that page. They would have never have been seen before in that configuration. This person's found them. And it's a way of putting things to one side, making yourself feel better by blotting out some of the bad things and lifting good things off the page. So here, for example, is a poem that came out of a Peter James book. Crackle into life, out, airways, pick up a controller, cooling down, almost go, the left, sky exploded, dance rattling on the roof, faster, slow. That poem didn't exist before. And so by doing blackout poetry, you can not only get out some of your bad feelings, you can not only physically, blot out things you don't like, you can also create something with them. It's very easy, it's very cheap, and it's a lovely way to do it. Journaling, I'm sure you've all heard about. Again, this is Dr. Julie Pratt, but you can find other people out there who are doing it. Now, journaling, there's a whole page of notes here that you can screenshot later on if you're watching this back. Okay, but journaling is effectively taking 5 minutes out of your day to write a prompt, to write from a prompt. You just need a pen, a piece of paper, and a prompt. Okay, so a prompt could be the snow. A prompt could be ingratitude for socks. A prompt could be the first word that you read in the newspaper in the morning. Okay. Journaling works in a way that it interrupts your negative flows, your negative thoughts. It gives you a moment of the day of absolute luxury where you are just writing for yourself. Again, like the 3-page morning, you aren't trying to control yourself. You're not worried about grammar. You're not worried about punctuation or anything like that, or making sense. This is just free flow writing, spontaneous flowed writing. Again, nobody needs to see it. Again, nobody's going to judge you. Again, you don't need to hand it over to anyone. Some people burn them, some people lock them away. You can do 3 or 4 journaling things in one day. Most people start with one, and it's just 5 minutes of free writing. Sometimes you bump up against things you've been worried about and they surface, and that's okay. Sometimes you highlight, one of the good things to do if you think you're having a really bad run of luck is to highlight the good things that have happened in the day. Another thing to do over a period of time is to list all the things you're grateful for, gratitude journaling. That way proves to you that you are a success in your own right. It helps in isolation because it gives you a special piece of time that's just yours. It puts a block on worrying about the stress and the anxiety. Or if you're someone who really struggles to get over that, and you give yourself a special focus like I am grateful for, I appreciate, I would like to change, then it helps you realize that you can face some things. It isn't a miracle cure, journaling, but people journal for years and years and years and use the notes to write books, write poems, write plays, and just calm down and make their life easier. Okay, I thought I'd better put in some brightly coloured pictures in here. This is collage. Now, anybody who's ever done collage at school, it was usually make a copy of Vincent van Gogh or make a copy of some other artist. I like to use collage to free my mind up. I run workshops in collage. It's basically sticking things down and cutting things out and sticking them down again. I use words a lot on mine. As you can see, this top one is knits. One of the things I've noticed with parents and children is that it just suddenly goes really, really quiet. So you'll be running a class for adults and children. The adults won't want to join in, and then suddenly they have. What's happening is you have to concentrate to make a picture. Your brain's making stories, your hands are busy, your eyes are busy, you're cutting things out that are very small, you're cutting things out and looking for connections, and your brain just switches off of the difficulties you've been carrying around. Very popular, obviously, Peaky Blinders. I love Peaky Blinders. I love Tommy as one of my heroes, if that's possible. And so I combine this one with text. When the attack happens, run for the beast of war. Okay, and that's about 6 or 7 different pictures that didn't exist before. So collage and text work together very well. They break your thought patterns. They funnel down. They're the modern equivalent of basically doing a puzzle. And I think they're, for me, more fun than doing the magic eye pictures or adult colouring or Sudoku. Now, cut up poetry is the opposite of that, really. You're looking for words. You're taking documents, usually found documents, newspapers, forms to fill in and things like that, and you're cutting them up. This serves two purposes. Again, the cutting up, the searching, the putting stories together mean that your brain can't do the worrying at the same time. There's something about us that wants to make stories. There's something about us that wants to make a narrative. When you're working on one narrative, you can't actually hold your own narrative in your head. So in this case, the poetry and the collage is being used to say something political. I want the Syrians to dream, feel life's moments, look into my eyes, let's be beautiful. The last word is love. Now that person, I would more or less guarantee you that when they woke up that morning, that wasn't what they were thinking. And when they sat down in that chair and flipped that magazine and found those words, that solution wasn't in there. So there's something organic about it, there's something miraculous about it, but what it does is it frees your head. You can't think about two things at once. The actual physical act of cutting and the physical act of searching and the physical act of sticking are things that you can't do whilst doing other things. They free up a different part of your brain. The next step on from there is to, if you're really stressed with the news, if you're really stressed with COVID, if you're really stressed with isolation, if you're stressed with gossip and, you know, abuse on Facebook, or, you know, all those places where people attack others. Now, I've got no problem with any of those things, but sometimes it's just too much. So this here is what I would do if that's the case. My parents read the Daily Mail. About 5 years ago, the Daily Mail had a big thing about why they shouldn't let women into the army. So I took all the articles on that and cut them up. Now, newspapers are brilliant if you want to make strong statements. So it's called malevolent, as in malevolent, because their words are so shocking that I thought I would negate them by chopping them up. So we've got some Tories in there, we've got some loyals in there, we've got the MOD in there, we've got Boris Johnson comes in later on. And it's just a way, instead of facing and reading and reading and reading, instead of ignoring what's going on or being stressed by what's going on, you take a little step away from yourself, you cut up the paper, which is always a good feeling, you throw away the rest of the paper in recycling, obviously, and then you stick it down and you make your own narrative. So this narrative ended up being, you know, that despite what the Daily Mail says, these wonderful people are going to have a revolution, and Boris is ditching a Kalashnikov for a headdress. It is a state of mind. So those are some of the things that we have been talking about today. I'm sorry it's such an absolute rush. We have looked at blackout poetry as a way to get rid of some of the your angst and anger emotions. We've looked at cut up poetry as a way to create something. We've looked at journaling as a way to get yourself 5 minutes of absolute peace and quiet in your day. We've looked at the 3-page morning or morning pages as a way to free you up from stress and anxiety when you get up. We've also looked at Brainwash, which is very quickly jotting down problems. We've looked at Collage as a way to entertain you and make you create something wonderful, and as a way of stopping your thought processes. So my name has been Gary Studley. As we can just have a quick look here, I run Writing for Life, which works with mental health using arts and writing. I run Soundlines, which is a poetry group, and Dead Horse Arts. Dead Horse Arts work with schools, work with community groups, work with charities, and are predominantly to use writing and art for better well-being. That's what today's all been about. It's been about helping you, children and adults, pupils, students, staff, parents. It's about helping you get through stress and anxiety and find ways to put them in. There's much more information about this online, but for today, I think that's about it. Sorry for such a rush, but you've got an awful lot of good things coming up. All the best, and to East Kent Schools Together, thank you very much for having me, and for everyone who's having a Feel Good Friday, well done. Have a great weekend.